Well, she was only appointed the new Productivity Commissioner less than a week ago, but already Danielle Wood is making headlines for her position on death taxes. Her comments on the front page of the Fin Review today. And Samantha Maiden on News.com reports that Danielle Wood has urged the government to have a sensible conversation on the option of inheritance taxes for the rich, despite admitting the policy is political dynamite. Danielle Wood spoke about how little tax retirees pay in a speech on the 30th of August, and she now wants a debate on taxing large inheritances to address intergenerational inequality. Have a listen. This is some of what she had to say.
Intergenerational transfer taxes are political dynamite. The windfall wealth gains of older generations and structural budget pressures means we should at least have a sensible conversation about the possibility of taxing large inheritances.
All right, well, let's bring in tonight's political panel, Nationals MP Keith Pitt and Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill. Welcome to you both. Deborah, this is the new Productivity Commissioner appointed by the Labor government. So does the government welcome a debate on inheritance taxes and the points that Danielle Wood has raised in her speech?
So I think I want to be really, really clear. The answer is no, absolutely no. And critical thing are the dates. So on the 30th of August, when the new Productivity Commissioner gave that speech, she was not the then Productivity Commissioner. She was the head of a think tank called the Grattan Institute, which Australians who watch your show, I'm sure, certain are familiar with. The critical thing is her appointment came on the 6th of September, and she will be serving the nation in her role now as the Productivity Commission. Importantly, in the article that you cite by Michael Reid in the Fin Review this morning, the headline's explosive, but read on, and there's a paragraph that says Labor is not considering an inheritance tax, and Dr Chalmers has ruled out sweeping tax reform. We're definitely going to go after multinationals and make sure they pay their fair share. But that less salacious headline, but indeed the actual facts of the matter, should put paid to the next scare campaign that was attempted today in the Senate at question time by some of the colleagues who, I don't know why, they just don't want the good news for the country and they want to create fear and alarm. You know, Australians are well able to see through a scare campaign like this. And I want to say very clearly, inheritance tax not on the agenda.
Well, it's good to hear that, Keith Pitt, you can understand why it's being raised. Danielle Wood made the remarks on the 30th of August. A week later, she's appointed the Productivity Commissioner. Are these fair questions to be asking? And are you planning, is your side planning a scare campaign over it?
Well, it's a very good attempt by Deborah, but seriously, we're seriously expected to believe that Miss Woods wasn't aware that she'd be announced as an appointment on the 6th, that there was no due diligence, that they hadn't had a discussion with her, she was just magically going to leave her current job, and that she would go out and say something that controversial. Keep in mind, this is a hand-picked position by the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, and she's gone out and said something like this.
Sorry, I'm going to have to go.
Deborah's got to go for a division. This will make it much easier. But I mean, really, she's made these types of comments without the approval of the Treasurer's office, the Minister, the Prime Minister, and was then still appointed. Now, this is in Labor's DNA, higher taxes, more challenges, and for those people who are retiring, it's their money. They've earned it.
All right, we're actually losing Deborah O'Neill. I hope it wasn't that the questions were too tough. She's got to attend a division in the Parliament. So, Keith Pitt, we're just going to continue with you for the minute. The Voice dominated question time today. This is after comments from Yes campaigner and Voice co-author Marcia Langton. I'm going to play you those remarks again in a moment. Keith also reports in the Sydney Morning Herald today that the No campaign is using emotion and fear to try and get votes. The Australian reports as well that Labor MPs are now saying that it would take a miracle for the Voice to pass. Are you expecting it to fail?
Well, I expect that the people will have their say in October. I expect every Australian that's able to vote, I hope they turn up. It's a yes, no, it's a binary question. But what we're seeing right now, I mean, Anthony Albanese is the great divider. I think he might think he's a pilot on a brick and tile glider at the moment, but that doesn't mean that that outcome will occur. It's up to every Australian that has to vote. And I think people should just take a big, deep breath here, calm down. I know there's been some commentary which is very inflammatory, especially what we've seen today from Western Australia.
Well, let's
I
have a
think
look
that is
at
quite insulting.
Well, let's have a look at those comments again that I played earlier in the show. We've got them exclusive tonight from Marcia Langton. Here it is.
Every time the No case raises one of their arguments, if you start pulling it apart, you get down to base racism. I'm sorry to say it, but that's where it lands. Or just sheer stupidity. The proposition, the question put to you on that you will vote on October 14 has been said by former High Court judges, the majority of the ex-judiciary who are allowed to say anything, in open letters to Australians. The question is safe, sound, robust and also practical. The judges, the old judges are telling you this, but Jacinta says otherwise. It's up to you as to whom you take your advice from.
Keith Pitt, what's your reaction to these comments from Marcia Langton at a referendum on the Voice, at a discussion about the referendum on the Voice, where she said that the No campaign is basing their arguments on racism or sheer stupidity?
Well, firstly, that's incredibly insulting to every Australian. They are out there trying to inform themselves, and there's no detail for them to do that. And then to tell them that, it's racist and they're stupid if they're going to vote no. I think she should apologise and withdraw. And in fact, I think the Labor government should do something about this, because she is a key architect of this proposal. And in fact, those who are voting no, it's exactly the opposite. They don't want to split our nation. They don't want to divide the country. They think we're one people. We are one country. We're all equal. We're all Australians.